Turn up your volume, please. Turn up your volume. Thank you. And welcome to eVision Live with Dr. Alexandra Kleeberg
and Dietrich Busacker.
Today, eVision Live on the topic of Forever Young. Forever Young will be the topic for the next 4, 5, 6, maybe even
There's a lot
episodes.
To say about
we have
that,
a lot
yes.
to say of it, and we have a special reason why we are talking about it, because
we're going to a congress
on longevity.
Yes,
And
I'm very curious about that.
Yes, and this will be on Sardinia. And Sardinia is one of the places, the blue zones.
In Italy.
And
it's an island. A lot of blue zones are on islands.
Yes. And these people, they are people which are living very long. So there are 5 blue zones on the earth. They have been identified where people easily get 100 and over 100 years old.
Happily.
And there was just a wonderful documentary film series recently on this question of the human longevity project.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many authentic old people. They were talking about the way of their getting old and how they're getting old, and that they were still so fit and then such a good humor, and it was so amazing to see them.
So, welcome to your happy, healthy, youthful life.
And so we're going to start this theme of getting older but staying young and healthy with what you would call the archetype of youth.
Yes.
But let's first start, because let's see, the concept of age. I think in our society is something which is, really embedded in society, and it goes along with a lot of fear of aging.
Yes, and it has changed throughout times. When I was young, my old aunts, which were 55 or 60 at that time, seemed to me very, very old and ancient. They wear buns and nets over their hair. They had dark robes, and their husbands had died in the Second World War, so they were widows, and they sort of lived like widows. And when I was a young child, I was sort of scared of this sort of aging. It didn't seem like much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but they lived in our family, or they lived in their families with their children, so they were supported from their
Mm-hmm.
family. They didn't live in old people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
But that grew more and more and more, and now a lot of people my age think they should get a place there, because it might take 10 years to get a place there. Or
in a retired home, yes.
In a retired home or retired village. And if you would ask me how I would build such a village, it would be much, much different than it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It would have a lot of stairs and a lot of obstacles and a trampoline everywhere and a disco and a massage studio and a playing
better not
ground.
only old people.
Hmm?
And better not only
Not
old people
better
around.
old people. And a swing would be great. Swings
So
everywhere.
and the worst thing is, if you're talking about all your illnesses and diseases, and
you get sicker and sicker every day.
You're reconforting each other in your problems. And
yes,
your
and the
challenges.
mirror neurons. If you only see people which are old and getting weaker and getting Alzheimer or Parkinson, I think that's not very healthy. And I've studied a lot of cultures and the history of mankind, and I haven't found any culture that puts their old people in special homes. They have them integrated. They are the wise people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very modern way of life to close them up, like
Mm-hmm.
almost like prisoners.
Mm-hmm. On the other side, okay, well, I've also an aunt which now decided, because she was not able to live alone anymore. She thought she wouldn't be able to live alone anymore. She wanted to be secured. And she was relatively fit physically, I think,
Yes.
also mentally, but she had some eye problems. And the first thing when she got into this elderly home, they gave her a rollator, and she was obliged to walk by a rollator.
Out of security reasons.
All just purely security reasons, because she can't fall. And well, now I don't think she doesn't want to get.
She can't walk like that anymore. I
She
have
can't,
another.
yeah.
We live in a very ancient city, and there are a lot of very old homes with very small stairs. And I know of a couple who lived in the 4th floor,
Yeah.
and they have to go up and down the stairs every day. And
They were something like over 80, and yeah.
Yes, and then they came into this retirement home with everything was smooth and easy to walk, and after, I think it took 14 days, and they couldn't walk the steps anymore.
Crazy.
So that's, I think, if you build a home for yourself in the future, just put in a lot of stairs, put in a path from the car to the living room, so that you have to move and walk a lot and just keep on moving.
Yeah, this was also one of these lessons from this longevity, human longevity project. They said really moving is
Yes.
very, very important,
Yes.
and just walking, not just not running, but rather just
Yes.
simple walking is the most important.
It's funny, a lot of times we have our holidays in Switzerland, and there are a lot of apartments for so-called old people, which are very rich, and they have a garage, and then they have an elevator to the apartment, and then they move like this, and then they go to the lift and to the car and to the fitness studio.
Yes, or
And once they get a little sick, they don't go to the fitness studio anymore. And so everything is very comfortable, but we really do need challenges, and we need moving.
that's why at your house there you have 85 steps to go, get up to the road.
Not
and
everybody likes it.
Not
yes.
everybody likes it. Yes. Well, we were talking about this concept of aging, which actually is, one German professor says, is rather an illusion, and it is because it's a societal construct. In reality, it's a question of age, is a question of the mindset.
Yes.
And there is a very curious, very interesting scientific experiment where they tested this.
Yes.
This
I really love this experiment. It's old.
It's old.
It's from the 1970s, 1979, I think. There is a Harvard professor. Her name is, it's a German name. The name is Ellen Langer. I don't really know how you pronounce it in English, so I just call her Ellen Langer. She's still alive, and she's a wonderful woman.
There's a wonderful podcast also.
She has a podcast about, I think, aging also and mindfulness. And she's very creative. And she had an experiment with people who were at that time 79, 81. She took, I think, 8 men, and she put them in 2 different homes for 1 week.
So she made a split test.
Yes, you have to do a split test if you want to be scientific. And the homes were in the style of the 1950s.
One of the homes.
No, both of the homes.
Both of them.
Yes,
Okay.
both of them were in the style of the 1950s. So when those people were 20, 30 years younger, when they were in the middle of their careers. And so they had a television where you have to switch,
turn and black and white,
yes,
television.
to find the channel. They had radio broadcasting from that time. They had television shows from that time. and they had these old sofas and these old tables and wallpaper and so forth. And they were to live in those homes for 1 week. And this one group was just asked to live in this home. And the other group was told that this time is right now. They should imagine it is 1958, 1959, and talk as if this time, and behave as if this time was now. And this future hasn't happened. And so those were the two groups, the split groups. And before that, they were tested in their heartbeat, their blood pressure, their diabetes, their muscle tonus, their brain function, their eyesight, their ears, and their flexibility and so forth. And afterwards, they were tested. And so what do you think what happened? Which group was better?
Well, I would suppose that those who imagined really being in that situation would be better, but I know your theories behind it and why. But
yes, they were both getting better.
Okay.
Both of them. They had better eyesight, ears, better flexibility, better blood pressure, better diabetes. Yes.
Sugar.
So they both got better. But the one who imagined living really in that time, they got even better than better.
And you would say they embodied really the
embodied the feelings of that time. And Michael Mosley in 2010 repeated this experiment in London with London celebrities. And they were even older. I think they were 80, 90 years old. And they had these 2 apartments, and they were in the style of the 70s. So they went into a time capsule 30 years back. And they had the same medical tests before and after. And they had, I think, cameras in most of the rooms, probably not on the toilet or sleeping room or so.
Video everywhere.
But they watched how they arrived there and how they left. And the team who watched this experiment was told not to interfere whatever happened. And so they came with their rollator and they had to move up a stairs. It wasn't that comfortable in the 1970s. So they really struggled to get up into the room. And some of the team said, oh, I would have liked to help them, but I'm not supposed to do that. And so they found their way up and they sort of helped each other, and there were a lot of things that were discomfortable for them, and they managed it. And Michael Mosley said that there were experiments with mice. If they were in a challenging situation over a long time rather than a boring one, they had...
Oh, not challenging one, yeah. When it was comfortable, yes.
Yes, they had a 30% longer life.
Oh, okay.
So it's not this younger atmosphere, it's also the challenges that help those people to get younger. And after the experiment, none of them, I think, had a rollator anymore. They were more flexible, they had better eyesight, they had better intelligence, they had better ears, they had better flexibility.
Wow.
So he proved that this early experiment in the 1979s was correct. So what do we learn from that?
So this is a question. What is it? Should we now dress up ourselves in our younger times, or what can we do about it?
Well, we do have a Dolce Vita festival at the Longevity.
Yes, we're going to go back into another of old times. Yes, right.
Yes. I imagine that it would cost a lot if we would rebuild the houses, if we took different wallpaper. It really would cost a fortune. But I think you opened up this interview with the phrase of this German professor that aging is a mindset.
Yeah.
So it's a shift in mind, and we can imagine. Of course, it helps to always hear the music of that time. In my groups, there is one person who had difficulties with flexibility, and he always votes for the Rolling Stones or for the Beatles, and then he stands there with his e-guitar, and his hands get really flexible,
Okay.
and his legs get flexible, and a lot of his bodily challenges disappeared. So this is a proof that it's really a mindset, these experiments.
So we should try to stay or get into a mindset where we are feeling us younger, or what would you say?
I'm very fond of the archetype of youth. I would advise you
What is an archetype?
An archetype is an unconscious idea or pattern in society, which almost everybody has gone through. We have the archetype of childhood, the archetype of youth, the archetype of wisdom, the archetype of a hero or whatever. So everybody knows what it is, but it's subconscious, but it structures our mindset from within.
And if we have thinking a mindset of, let's say, an old sick person, we are in the archetype of an elderly person.
Yes, in the shadow archetype of wisdom, probably.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a light archetype and the shadow archetype. And we would like to work with a light or enlightened archetype of youth. Alan Langer and Michael Mosley just had this time capsule 30 years back. I would advise you to go really back to your youth and choose an age between 16 and 20.
Why between 16 and 20? I didn't feel that well at that time. I don't know. It was.
I didn't tell you to feel like you felt at that time. I advised you to imagine this age and imagine how you could have been. When I was that age, I had pimples. I had greasy hair. I felt withdrawn, I felt sort of wrong and shy and insecure, and that's not what I would like to train. It would, if I would train that, I would get an old woman with pimples and greasy hair and shy and withdrawn. I wouldn't like to be that. So we imagine the ideal archetype of youth, how we could have been. Maybe you're
strong, young, feeling sexy.
Yes.
Oh, curious, looking, whatever. All the future is ahead of me.
Yes, dreaming and in the middle of our erotic power. And so that's why we choose this age. If you are 14, sometimes people say, why not between 14 and 25? And for some, 14 might be okay, but when you're 14, you're probably not in this femininity which you're have
still in the
when
changing transformational process.
So we need a woman body or a man body. Everything else might rather be the archetype of the child, which is also very good. It's also very good for longevity. But in this video, we talk about the archetype of youth. And once you go over 20, 22, 24, biology says aging starts. So we are between 16 and 20. And please write down your new age till your last day on Earth.
And aging starts, maybe it is also a rather concept. Oh, you get yes.
Yes.
We have some soul.
Yes.
So this is a question of an exercise.
Yes, please write down your new age on a piece of paper.
Oh, I have mine also here.
This new age will day after day influence your heartbeat, your breathing, your muscle tonus, your skin, your flexibility, your biochemistry, your hormone system. So we sort of wash or restructure our brain to this new age.
So my age is 18. So please maybe not go now and get a piece of paper, because keep on listening, but maybe now write down below what is your ideal
new
age.
Ideal archetype of youth age.
Yes.
And then this rational mind might say, oh, this is not true. The passport says something different. And if you don't have a passport, maybe somebody else says something
Your
different.
social security card says something different.
But we know our brain is very intelligent. And the brightest intelligence it has is that it can't differentiate between real and ideal. Some say this is stupid. I think this is fantastic. It's the most intelligent function of our brain, that it can't differentiate between that, because that's the room of all possibilities. If it could, it would say this is crazy and nothing would happen. So if you...
The intelligence says, but the brain can't,
Yes, the ratio says.
The ratio says.
Yes.
So that's why you to do something about it, and to really to turn around your ratios telling you this is not true. Just take a better, how do you call this, little pieces, yellow sticks, that post-its, the post-it notes. Just write on the post-it notes and put it everywhere.
Yes,
on the
copy
mirror,
it a few times,
on the toilet,
yes.
Above your bed.
Above your bed, put it in your purse, put it in your bra. Just take it everywhere. So your brain starts to believe this. I've learned this in the Russian system. You know, in Germany we are between America and Russia and China and India, and there might be more contact with Russian New Age movements or mental movements, and there is a very big group in Russia who works with the archetype of youth and has very, very, very successful results.
Well, I saw it actually where you're having a couple in one of your seminars. And they're so amazing, wonderful couple. And well, they are long after retirement, at least the husband is long after retirement. And they decided really to practice it.
Yes.
And they go out into the street.
And they cured some symptoms.
And they cured symptoms by this, yes. And now the man, well, he is dancing again. He's looking
18.
much younger. He is 18. His wife is 17. And everywhere they tell people, well, I'm 18. Are you a little bit crazy? But then they get into talking with these people and gives them the opportunity to talk with them. And at the end, they understand why it's so important. And when they look at them, the way how young they look, so they're amazed that this how this works. So it's a question of the mindset.
Yes. I have another episode in my groups. It was when I started these groups. There was a lady, the passport said about 60 or something, and she applied for a job, and she worked with this archetype of youth, and she got a job in the family to be a housekeeper. And she looked very young. She looked maybe 45 or 42. And she got this job, and then she had to send them the papers, the passport and everything, so it got registered. And then the lady who gave her the job called her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't take you. I thought you were 40-something, but now I see you're 60, and I don't want to work with such an old person." So this was the other side, yes? She got another job, but that's sometimes very ridiculous what happens, right?
Yeah.
We get younger, and then people see the passport and say, "Oh." So I'm doing this exercise for many, 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 many years now, and every time when I have my birthday, I write the same birthday card. So you save money, you save energy, and it says, like always, I want to invite you to my 18th birthday. And then they laugh. Yes, they come and laugh. And then I am 18 for a day or 2 or 3. I decide that for myself, and then I become 17 again.
Okay.
And really, I feel younger every day. When I was 17 of my passport, I was clumsy. I felt weak. I didn't feel much energy. I felt insecure. Maybe it was psychological that I didn't feel much energy, but I'm feeling more and more alive every week, every month, every year.
Yeah, and I can only confirm nowadays I'm much more I'm less ill than all my younger colleagues in my company. So I don't know why, but also let's see, there is this expression of Schopenhauer, the big philosopher, who says actually why this is, because he says youth, when you're thinking from the standpoint of youth, you have all the future ahead of you. Everything future is eternal for you. But if you're just thinking of a standpoint from age or from aging, you're looking backwards. And then if you're looking backwards, you're always looking at a very short past, which is past, and you don't see this as a future. Yes. And nowadays, the people, let's see, 65. Many people are 65 also watching this. Often people were watching between 55 or 45 and 65. Let's see, is the largest group. But if you're 65, statistically, you have about 30 years ahead of you. And if you're 45 nowadays, you have at least 55, 60 years ahead of you.
So that's a very long time. And sometimes people ask me, how can that be? Because statistics says
average age is 82 or whatever.
But once you get older, then from the statistics are deleted the babies.
You have survived all those people who were killed by accidents or by
and the babies.
So
it's another 20, 30, 40 years, and psychologically it's very important to feel time and space. That's the archetype of youth, that you feel the future is ahead, and that's very, very important no matter how old you are, that the future is ahead. It gives you more energy, it gives you more dreams. It's very important for people 65 plus that they start dreaming again. They have 30 years. That's a very long time to make things happen.
It's half the lifespan that they had before. Yeah,
yes.
It's a really long time.
Yes, so this is very important for the archetype of youth, that every day you have all the possibilities lying in front of you, that you have space, that you have time. And this is one aspect of the archetype of youth. And the other one which goes along with that is that you start dreaming again. This ideal youth is that you dream your future, you dream your husband or your wife or your children or your career or whatever. You're open to dream again. And this makes it even wider and even more magical. That's also important to get the magic back into life, and because old people often are in this cage of conformity, of rationality, and they everything gets closer and closer and closer, and it's very important to open up and get wider and wider and wider.
Yeah, and develop your dreams and also develop your visions, what you want to achieve. I think in our 10 episodes ago we talked about visions, and I think there also this question is all you can do now, to write down what you want to achieve. So what you want to do, which countries you want to travel, which which mountains you want to climb, which sports you want to learn, which languages you want to learn. So
Which people you want to meet.
Which people you want
Yes.
to meet. So this can also be something which encourages you and it keeps you, keeps you in this this mindset of youth.
Yes. So we have openness, wideness, we have dreams. What's very important for the archetype of youth is rebellion.
Yeah!
Yes, and it's when we talk about longevity,
Yeah.
it's very important to be very critical with all the concepts that come through the newspaper, through television, through your neighbors, also to be very, very critical and to be very rebellious.
About these concepts of aging, because
Yes.
most of these concepts of aging are just
Bullshit.
okay, you said it.
BS. BS. So just question everything you hear and ask yourself if the other side could even also be true. So if you hear, well, when you age you get sicker, it could also be true when you age you get more flexible and more vivid and healthier.
It's possible, at least in
You-
this wonderful
you know
document.
that, yes, you're much fitter now than...
And in this wonderful documentary we just saw this last 9 days, I think they were showing all these really authentic old people who were well fit. There was one man, 104 years old, going bicycling.
Yes, and I feel more energetic and I'm healthier than when I was this real passport 17.
And I think it's a decision just that you decide for yourself to stay that way, and it's possible
Yes.
because...
So, please, 17 till your last day on earth. We want to die and go and leave healthy. Okay, the other aspect is erotic energy. I think this was a taboo for a very long time, and I think there is still a lot of taboo, although everybody writes about it. There is much more to learn than we can imagine, and that might be another interview in half a year. It probably will be.
We will talk about
Many
that.
interviews
But at least
on that.
there's one study I read somewhere that women between 60 and 70 have the best orgasms.
Yes.
But I think only it's women between 60 and 70, because there has not been a study yet about the erotics of women between 70 and 80 or between 80 and 90.
Yes, and if these women which have been between 60 and 70s, they might be even better when they
Get into the 80s and 90s.
So we don't know about that. I think there's much, much more to learn about erotic. And the archetype of youth means we are in this flowering, blossoming woman body or men body, and we enjoy the erotic energy. And this is very, very important for eyesight, for skin, for ears, for flexibility, for the heart, for the breathing, for everything. So this is another aspect of the archetype of youth, and the last aspect we want to talk about this, and we might have another video on that too, is enthusiasm. That we wake up in the morning and see this number 17 and we get all these dreams, all these ideas, and then that we embody it on our way to the toilet or through our everyday life. That we get enthused maybe by spring, we get enthused maybe when we see a man or a woman, we get enthused when we read a poem or when we dance, that we really train enthusiasm. And enthusiasm means entheos. It's come from the Greek. It means we are like this spirit comes into us. Another word is inspirited. So there are these 5 aspects. We have our life in front of us, we are rebellious, we have dreams, we have this erotic power, and we are enthused for our life and till the rest of our lives.
Okay, thank you for watching. And so please, now you can go and get your piece of paper, write down your age, put it on post-it notes, put it everywhere.
And live it every day. It's proved.
It's proved. So let's give it a try and give us feedback how it works for you. We are really looking forward to it. We'll be having other episodes about longevity, enthusiasm during the next weeks. So there will be more about it. Today it was the Archetype of Youth. And well, give it a try, live it, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and open your heart.